yet another episode of Smash the Bug. I am your host, Joseph Maxwell, and joined by a special guest here today, Eric Allatt from Kubert. Lives in Canada, so almost the same country, almost, maybe a couple differences here and there, but really excited to talk to him about a project he has been working on and what he has learned through this project and how he can help us make better Magento sites as a result of this. As I always say, if you have not already, make sure you subscribe to our Swift Otter Inc. channel on YouTube. Great content we're constantly pushing out there. Or if you prefer to listen to it in audible form, you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Those podcast syndication platforms, you will find Smash the Bug there. Without further ado, I'd love to bring Eric to the stage and let's get this show on the road. Welcome, Eric. It's great having you here, my friend.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure having you here. So you are an e-commerce architect at Kubert, and what does that mean?
All right, so Kubert is a company that develops a brand per year. With this comes a whole e-commerce website that goes with it. They're developing on Shopify, so when they approached me, I said, I'm a Magento guy, so what's the deal here? And really, they had pushed the Shopify platform to its max, and now they wanted to push further. So Magento looked like the right solution for them, and I agree.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Magento was the answer for way more merchants back 10 years ago because there wasn't viable competitors, and now there are, and you go to what makes sense.
Yeah, and Magento is a very powerful platform. Mm-hmm. So if you don't need all of that power, you don't need all the what it has to offer, maybe it's not necessarily the best solution for you. But if you really want to grow with a platform and it offers what you want, you can actually grow easily because it's all open source.
Absolutely.
So make the right decision, and if it is right for you, definitely it's a very good product.
Very good. Absolutely. So we're talking about a project you have been working on called Cyberic Performance. Maybe you want to share a little bit about what this project is.
Yes, for a few years, I've been working on making Magento as fast as possible. You look online and people equate Magento 2 with being slow, and I believe it doesn't have to be. So I've been looking over the internet, read a lot of articles. Some have done great work, but sometimes it works one version, let's say even with page speed insights, and then suddenly some of the rules are changing. It's not as fast anymore, or obviously all the tracking tools that are added to a website would slow it down as well. So instead of trying to find a kind of a solution like a module that speeds up your website, which I don't think would work, websites are too different, what about going through a list of steps that would allow you to find ways to make Magento work faster? And everyone has different hosting platforms. Merchants have different needs. Magento might be slow for different reasons, but if you follow a certain steps, then if you always end up with the website as fast as it can be, that would be a great win. So that's what I did at first. I did a video where I would put all these steps together, but then one of those steps I never really liked, and that was the way you would take the static assets and then do an advanced JavaScript bundling, needing Node.js and so on. It worked, but it was never really satisfied with it. What if we could have a more Magento native way of accomplishing this, which would not be an extra step? And then when I started investigating what it would involve, it just got better and better. I would open some Magento files, and in the comment it would say, well, this is what they did, and if you want to do your own custom solution, well, this is where it almost said this is where you should be.
Right.
And then you go to the next one, and that there too it would say this function does exactly what I want it to do. So I realized, okay, it might not be as difficult as it looked like, and in a matter of a few weeks, I was able to develop a project that a module that would do the advanced bundling in Magento.
And so, what does it take in order to get this going? Is it a matter of just installing the module and running static content deploy, or is there other steps that are required in here?
It needs a bit more. I know people would have loved a module that you just plug in and it works with every website, but in real life, I was never able to do that. So what my approach was always, when you start with a brand new Magento, let's do the performance right away. Let's make Magento green in the page speed insight, at least.
That's good.
And then we're going to work with a fast environment to start with. And of course, we can only slow it down. But if we start in green and finish in yellow, I think we've accomplished a lot. Better than start in yellow and finish in the red.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Most sites, Magento sites I see. So this module is more like a basic one. I always start with this. And if you start with Magento out of the box, it always works. It survives even the moving from one version to the next. So it's built Magento way, and it goes well for that. But as you add JavaScript, it's quite possible that your JavaScript won't fit this module, and that's no problem because you don't need to include it, and your JavaScript will work without being bundled with the rest, and everything will be fine. There's scripts where they need to be placed at the head of the document, and maybe you don't want to push it to the bottom of your HTML document, and that's quite all right as well. So if you start with Magento's JavaScript, and at least you optimize all of this, bundle this in 3 instead of 170 some, I think you've already achieved a lot. So if the module does just that already, I think it's accomplished a lot of what it can do to speed up your website.
Yes. And so maybe you can elaborate on how the bundling works differently, because I think it's pretty well common recommendation to avoid using the Magento bundler, right? Because it bundles everything together, and it means everything is downloaded. So maybe is that a saving against overall total download time, maybe over the course of several requests, and it starts causing some problems like that. So maybe can you explain how yours is different in this way?
Yes, certainly. So first, I know that Magento recommends a certain techniques or not to do certain things, and that's fine. It's if you don't understand why, I think it's okay to test them for yourself. And that's when I tested it for myself that I saw that some results surprised me. You're right. If you use bundle and you use the minification and put it all together, it will create for you just one JavaScript file. But one JavaScript file is already way faster than 175. So at least it was throwing me in the right direction. Definitely, I don't want a huge JavaScript file. And working with other solutions that were bundling them, I could already see that 3 is good. One that loads initially with the page, then one that is, we can call it default. It applies to any website page, Magento page. And then finally, one that is specific to the type of page, either CMS, catalog, checkout. And so when I built it, I made sure that the end result would be exactly the same as if you did it with Node.js, a different solution. And then to come to understand how we could be doing it, I did some research in RequireJS. Obviously, this is what Magento works with. So how can it help? How can I find the ways with RequireJS to make this happen? Because definitely that's what the others are using.
Yes.
And I found on their website there's actually a RequireJS bundles feature, which actually does that. In your main JavaScript, you will put all the JavaScript that are requires and say you'll find these in bundle default.js. And the first of these Doesn't matter if you have, let's say, 40 of these JS files in that bundle. The first one that is called RequireJS will know, okay, now I need default JS. And at the same time, I get everything else I need in there. And they will download the file. But by doing it this way, it simplified it for me. I didn't have to do much in producing the JavaScript one. All I had to do is create some lines. And when I made a video on explaining this module, that was my purpose. The purpose was, don't just use the code and do what you want to do with it. Take a few minutes and just understand how it works. Maybe you can improve it. It's an idea. I put it in practice. Yeah. I went as far as I could. Today, it does what I want to do. I don't see how I can improve it further, but someone else looking at it might actually find ways to do this, and I'd be glad if they shared. That's why I leave it there for others to use. But definitely learning more about RequireJS helped me find out that it would give me all the tools I needed. For example, it would tell me which files it loads. It would tell me the name of the mapping of those files. I never had to guess these things. They were actually coming straight from RequireJS. I was surprised that it made my work much easier.
Excellent. Wow, that's really cool. And I love the opportunity on this podcast to be able to encourage other people to contribute in this. And I'll just take this moment to do that. So again, look in the show notes. It's a little bit harder to spell this one, but github.com/cyberneb/Cyberic_performance. And, being able to contribute, this is what, Hacktober month, right? So like even being able to contribute an idea or an update or a tweak to this module is even counts toward what, Hacktoberfest. And that's what I hope to be able to give back to you there, is just to give you some extra attention here, just encouraging people to come contribute, to review this module. It's a super cool idea, and let's get some more community involvement in this.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. This is really cool. I'm glad to see how that's come together, and look forward to seeing it continue to take those steps.
And remember that this is only step 5 of a list of different steps that you can improve.
That's right. Our 6-step list. We got it. I think we should go cover that now. Talk about these steps that are important in creating a performant website. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, Magento, especially 2, gets a bad rap. It's like, well, it's not performant and all that. And to be frank, a portion of those problems are related to the developers. But this is really important. This is good. Like, we need to get a performant website going out of the box. So maybe you can start running us through this 6-step strategy to a performant website, Magento 2 website. How about that for a title?
All right. So definitely go watch the video, because there I try to concise everything as much as possible. But the first 4 steps really involve no programming at all. And you don't have to do the 6 steps. You can stop where you want. But at least the 4 first ones, you don't even need to do any programming. So why not attempt them?
Of course.
And some of them look quite obvious. First one is one of those, is the environment that you will be working with. So the hosting platform. Magento does give us some recommendations of what it should be. For example, using Varnish is a great tool. I think Magento 2, knowing how it came from Magento 1.9, it was meant to be working with Varnish. I know some don't like it, but try it. But don't take for granted that Varnish is actually working just because it's installed. I've seen this quite a few times. Varnish is installed, and I go test it, and I still get this first byte at 300 and some. So this Varnish is not working properly, and we get it fixed, and then suddenly, okay, now it's 30, 40. Okay, perfect. Now it's if you don't start from that step, making sure that you have Redis is installed. Anything that could really help you improve your server. And it doesn't have to be the most expensive setup either. You can always scale, but at least the one that you're going to start with, make sure that it's you like the speed. It's as fast as you can get it to run and get an initial score. When I did the test on 2.41, the score was like 55. I could get 54 to 56, but by improving on the environment, I was doing this on a very low budget. I had to do it like $20 a month type of hosting, but no one would do that in real life. I just upped the game to $25, and already I can start with a score higher just because of
interesting.
$5 more per month, I can get more power. So imagine a merchant that starts with the right budget and the right server and the right installation Magento, and you make it run, and already you're serving Magento like in 1 second out of the box. Then the step one is well done. Again, no programming involved, but if you start with the wrong hosting, definitely you will not achieve as good as you can get.
Yes. Well, I want to make a quick comment about Varnish there. And so let me summarize in this way. I don't think we should ever disable Varnish so we can implement a feature, because I've seen it where the Varnish would prevent we don't want a form key cached on the actual HTML source response, right? Because that would be Varnish to pick that up. So I've seen cases where then the developer disables Varnish just so that they can put the form key in the HTML response. Or that's an example. There's a million other ways to dice that one up. But that's really, really important to at least make sure the hardware and the software is good. And I liked what you said, you had $20 a month, and then you bumped up to $25 a month, and you got a better page speed score. So hosting and that whole system is really important.
And then you have step 2, and that is the client, what Magento calls the client-side optimization settings. And so they're hidden to us if you're working in production or default mode. When you turn Magento on, you need to be in dev mode to see them. Or simply, you can use the command line interface, and then they're all available to you, but you still need to find them online to know which ones to use. At the time I made the video, one of them was well hidden, and that was to move your JS files to the bottom of the HTML document, but it existed. So it was interesting. I tested that one along with the bundling, and the results, as when you watch the video, you realize this is where you get the most points. It's from the configuration you do in Magento. And again, play with them. I believe there's 9 that I use, and if you follow recommendation, there's at least 2 you'll never turn on, and I show in the website in the video, that when you do what Magento recommends, the score actually goes down. So it's not to put Magento down. It's just to say, like, if you don't question anything, you don't try anything, you won't know.
Yeah.
And you'll end up with a slow website because you followed procedures or the documentation.
Absolutely.
But by playing with it, you realize that these configurations are there. Let's make them work together. And the final answer is, if I turn everything on, the 9 of them, I get the highest score. So even if it's not recommended, it always worked out for me. So that's why I like to share it with others.
Very good. Yeah.
But you still need a step 5, the advanced JavaScript, if you do this, because it's going to bundle it in only one JavaScript file. That's probably not the best solution for any website. But playing with those configurations and then comparing with PHP, the insight, certainly you could see a lot of improvements.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that is excellent. Good. Thank you. And just to be clear, we're going to put the link to the videos in the description for this podcast. So people will be able to get a lot more detail than what we're able to talk about here. But my goal in this podcast is to wet your whistle, you as the listener, to be able to want to learn more about this performance, how to enhance the experience in Magento from a speed perspective. And so, yeah, very good. Let's jump on to number 3 then, I guess.
Yeah, number 3, the CDN, Content Delivery Network, optimizing images. And in the video, I hope to see that it's good to read what Page Speed Insight is recommending for us to do. And it doesn't always apply to improving performance, and it's not always possible to do it, but you can learn. And this is where I learned WebP images can definitely help for mobile. And all the tests are run on mobile. There is no need to run tests on desktop.
Okay.
And CDN, again, this is one of those steps where it will be different for everybody. It's different for me depending on the project. You have some hosting platforms that provide you with their own CDNs. You only have to pay for it. If you are on Adobe Cloud, for example, you have Fastly that comes with it. So with other hosting platforms, there is no CDN provided, and you might want to buy a service that does both. They host your images and they transform them in WebP. There's different possibilities, but definitely this is a step you should not ignore. And in the video, it shows that you can increase your score pretty well by serving, even using HTTP2. It's good to have the CDN to provide another, just another place to get your images from and help the page to load faster.
For sure. That's good. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Then number 4.
Disabling unused modules. And this is something I'd seen on the internet before.
I think Internet had a post about that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this is from them that I learned. I thought it was this was good for me. This was not just disabling it; this was actually removing it. And there is a difference. It's very, very interesting. I don't do one without the other, because anybody who has attempted to do this has actually broken Magento, and then it's sad to try to do something good, and then you learn a few months later you've created a bug. Someone else has come back to you and says, "Why did you do this?" And so I said, how do you find ways to not make those mistakes? And probably the best way is to disable it in Magento using the command line. It will turn red if you can't do it. It will tell you it depends on someone else, and so you'll know that, okay, this is not that simple to remove this one, and maybe it's not worth it. I also make a difference between the ones that will have an effect on the front end and the ones that won't. And for this, you look at the static asset, the amount of static assets that have been deployed. They give you the number. So, for example, if you start at 2,400, I show how by disabling, let's say, 40 modules and actually removing them from Composer, you can actually see 200 assets go down, and then we compare the score. And today, most projects you can bring it down lower than the 2,000 different assets. So it's good to know which modules you need and which ones you don't. I don't think there's any Magento where you use everything. And so it's good to find the list. And online, I don't have the link with me, or maybe I can provide it to you another time.
Yeah, we'll just throw it in the show notes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Magento gives us the list of the modules and what they do and their names and everything, all on one web section.
Okay.
And I go through there, and every time there's a new versions of Magento, there's always a few new of these modules that I don't know. So I can go there and look at them and say, okay, do we actually use this? And I go see in the back end and where it goes. And you can help the merchant you're working with make a decision. Do you actually, like, no one's going to use all the payment options. So
that's
remove the ones you don't need. No one's going to use all the shipment methods. Remove the ones that you don't need to. And it does make an impact even on the home page.
Yes.
You think it will maybe affect just the checkout or something. It doesn't. It affects the whole website, each page of the website.
Yes.
So knowing that, if you remove modules that you don't need, you will see an improvement in speed in Magento. You'll see an improvement in speed every day you work, because every day you have to deploy, every day you have to run a static content deploy, you're going to do it in sometimes half the time. Instead of just spending 9 seconds, it does it in 4 or 5 seconds. So it's, I think we all benefit. But in the end result for the website, yes, you see improvement on speed, easier to navigate in the back end when you have, let's say, 25% less stuff to look at or to configure. Anyway, this is one way to do it, but we have to do it properly. If you remove stuff that should not be removed, you're going to cause problems. Yeah.
And that's been the challenge. Like I used to do that on some of our projects, and then I think what ended up changing my mind on that, at least at that point, is probably worth revisiting. I ran into one of the craziest issues, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think the solution was that admin notification was not present. And that was, as we don't need the notifications from Magento, right? I mean, that's just, now with the bulk action, I think that was before bulk actions really came to the spotlight. Now those are necessary, but yeah, that. I spent a day, I think, or two debugging that. I was like, where is it? And then I finally figured that out. But I totally agree. Like, there's a lot of modules, even if one that are really safe to disable. A lot of the, like you said, the payment methods, shipping methods, and there's a lot of modules that are safe beyond that. But if one wants to get a little more risky, then there's even more modules you can disable past that, which, admin notification probably would qualify. I don't know if they fixed that, if it was a bug or what, but it was.
I had seen your comment on the integer.net, and this is where I said, okay, we have to find a better way.
Yes.
And when I ran the command line to disable it, it turned red. It told me right away, this depends on Magento backend, and I realized, Magento backend is not something I'd like to deal with. So I left it there, and I always left it there. So doing this with pretty much, that's what I'm saying, before you remove them in Composer, disable them first and let Magento tell you how much it loves its own module before you get rid of it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good, that's a sage piece of advice right there, because of course I didn't do that. And perhaps, now maybe it wasn't documented well at the time, but regardless, I think that does save some significant problems. The other thing to call out is, and maybe you want to quickly elaborate on this, we're actually running into time here, but is the issue of just disabling a module. Does that actually have performance impact versus actually using Composer, the replace directive in Composer.json to do that? Again,
feel free to try it. I personally believe that if you remove them from Composer, it is faster overall to work with. If you feel that all you need to do is to disable them, then go ahead, just do that. These are just steps that work for me. You adjust them so that those steps work for you as well. Disabling them for sure is going to give you an improvement. You'll see it right away. Removing them from Composer is just going to make the whole process of setup upgrade, for example, go faster and stuff like this. So
yes. Well, and I wanted to specifically also throw out there, if you just disable a module like an app.config.php, there are some things that are not officially disabled. I think event observers is one of them, and that can provide some really strange behavior. I don't officially quote me on this, although everybody will, but I have to double check on that. But that was one thing that that specifically has caused me some grief in the past. I'm like, I disabled this module, and yet the event observers are still trying to fire for this. So that is one thing to note, just if one wanted to just disable a module as opposed to completely getting rid of it. That's good. We talked about step 5, the advanced JavaScript bundling, which was the really cool module that you built. Then let's talk about step 6. So maybe if we can do that in like a minute or so, just roughly describe what this is.
That's usually what I do with this 6-step using critical CSS path. I only use it if I need to. If despite everything I've done, the score is not good enough, and we want to achieve more, definitely you can achieve a lot more with CSS critical path, but it's not easy to do. It's created lots of bugs for me. For sure, Magento out of the box, you don't necessarily need it. But for some websites that you did add a lot of modules to it, a lot of customization, and then you still want your website to work faster, especially if you've got long pages. This is definitely one step that you should look at. Okay. And in the video, you can see it. But in real life, I don't use it all the time. I don't think that the payoff is as good as all the other steps.
And that's a good point as well, because and I really like what you've been talking about here. A lot of the payoffs, at least in the first 4 or 5 steps, that's really good. But I think, as with anything, performance does fall victim to the law of diminishing returns. And so there's only so much. At some point, the amount of money we put into it increases, and the amount of value we get out of it starts dropping. And so, but it's usually these first ones that we get the most value out of. But if we need to, then we can keep proceeding on, even though the going is going to get a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. Eric, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, what you've learned about optimizing the performance of a Magento website. I know it's comes and goes, but it can be a really hot topic. And I think this will be really provide great value to those who listen to it. So thank you for joining us and sharing your knowledge and your learnings here.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and anybody who feels that they'd like to contribute and add to it, or whatever ideas you have, I'm open to listen to them.
Very good, yes. And I will make sure we get a link in the show notes about this project, so again, try to spread the word of it, and let's see some contributors come in and share their thoughts. That's really cool. So it's been a pleasure talking with you, Eric. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure to have Eric here on this podcast, be able to share what he has learned about performance. And again, most of these steps are pretty easy to implement. Like, it's not going to take that much effort. And so, but the other thing is, as you heard him say, is don't just do all the things, do them in a measured fashion and take notes, review them, run it through Google PageSpeed, whatever. You're going to have a baseline. You're going to say, okay, well, this improved this improved that. Okay, well, maybe this didn't improve it. It's a matter of approaching it without just saying, okay, this is all of this is going to make your website perfectly perform well. You have to take it in a measured approach, which is what every good developer must be doing anyways. We got to be taking the information, trying it, and we proceed with what works. That's what we always are doing. So, it was an absolute pleasure having him here. Hope you take some time to review his project. Try it out on a website that you're working with. Depending on how that goes, drop an issue or shoot him an email, send him a tweet, whatever, thank him, whatever, for the effort that he has put into this. And of course, it's wonderful that he shared this with the rest of the world. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will look forward to bringing you more great content like this.